You know, in the tech world, there's this powerful force that can make a company you love, an app you use every day, pretty much obsolete overnight. It's a fear that developers have had for decades, but right now, with AI blowing up, that threat is reaching a whole new level. Let's get into it.
So what does a famous detective from a book have in common with that app on your phone? It sounds like a weird riddle, right? But the answer actually unlocks one of the biggest, most persistent fears in the entire software industry. It's a phenomenon with a very specific name.
And that name is Sherlocking. Basically, it's what happens when a giant platform, let's say Apple, sees a cool feature in a smaller app and just builds it directly into the iPhone's operating system. For the developer who came up with that idea, well, it can be a total death sentence for their business. To really understand it, though, we got to go back to the original crime scene.
Okay, so here's how it all started. Way back in 1998, Apple had this search tool called Sherlock. It was fine, but then a little company made an app called Watson that made Sherlock way better. It could search specific sites like eBay and Amazon. Apple saw how popular it was, and in the very next update, they copied the exact same features into their own Sherlock tool. And just like that, Watson was toast. A new verb for the tech world was born.
And this is not some ancient history lesson. This exact pattern plays out year after year at Apple's big developer conference. For a lot of app makers, it's the most stressful time of the year because a single new feature announcement can wipe out their entire business model.
And the money involved here is just staggering. According to analysis from App Figures, Apple's latest software updates put apps that make a combined $393 million a year at risk. We're not talking about small indie apps here. This is a huge chunk of the app economy. And you can see right here where the biggest hits are. Hiking and trail apps, they're facing a potential loss of $307 million. Grammar checking apps are now up against a free built-in alternative, threatening over $35 million in revenue. And math solver apps, another $23 million. All of these were successful paid services, and now they have to compete with a free feature that's on every single iPhone.
Now, to be fair, there's a real debate about this in the developer world. One side says, look, this is just how platforms evolve. Apple is just adding basic features people expect to have, and serious power users will still pay for the more advanced third-party apps. But the other side has a much darker take. They say Apple isn't just adding features, they're strategically copying the core function that satisfies 80% of the users, which completely kills the market for casual customers and just crushes the original business.
And whichever side you're on, the list of apps in the danger zone just keeps getting longer. Popular flight trackers, spam call blockers, even beloved Mac utilities that people have used for years to organize their menu bar or launch apps, they've all seen Apple build their core ideas right into the OS. It just goes to show how wide the blast radius can be.
But here is where the story takes a massive turn. For all the fear that Apple has created, there is a new character walking onto the stage. And honestly, it's a force that could make Apple's version of Sherlocking look like a warm-up act.
Think about it. For a quarter of a century, if you were a developer, Apple was the boogeyman. They were the ultimate gatekeeper. They held all the cards.
But that fear is shifting. It's moving towards something bigger, something more powerful, and way less predictable. The new Sherlock isn't a company. It's artificial intelligence itself. We are entering a brand new era, one where AI assistants are becoming the new gatekeepers of, well, everything. They're positioning themselves to be the single front door to the entire internet and every service on it. To really get why this is such a profound shift, you have to understand the business model that has dominated the last decade: aggregators. Companies like Amazon, Uber, or Netflix, they don't always make the stuff you buy, but they win because they own the relationship with you, the customer. They provide the most convenient front door. The analyst Ben Thompson absolutely nailed it with this quote: "The direct relationship with the user is the linchpin on which everything else rests. Lose that direct connection and your whole business model starts to crumble." And here's the nightmare scenario for a company like Uber. You need a ride, but instead of fumbling around to open the Uber app, you just ask your AI assistant. The AI handles everything. For you, it's amazing. It's seamless. But for Uber, they've just been demoted. They're now just a faceless utility in the background. The AI assistant now owns that critical relationship with you. And this leads us to this really radical idea. What if these giant AI models, these LLMs, aren't just fancy chatbots? What if what we're actually watching is the birth of a totally new kind of operating system, and AIOS?
And look, this isn't just a clever metaphor. The comparison is almost one-to-one. A classic operating system has a kernel, its core. The AIOS has a large language model. An OS has memory, the AIOS has a context window. An OS has a file system, an AIOS can pull in external knowledge using something called RAG. And device drivers? For the AI, that's just tools and APIs it can use to actually do things in the real world. It's the same architecture, just a completely new foundation.
And please, make no mistake about this. This is not some sci-fi theory about the future. The infrastructure, the foundation for this AI operating system, is being built as we speak by companies like OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic. And they are moving at a terrifying speed.
Just look at what OpenAI released at a recent event. They gave us the Assistance API. That's the framework for building apps on this new OS. They introduced built-in retrieval, which instantly Sherlocked countless startups whose entire business was just connecting private data to an LLM. Their Threads feature handles conversation memory, making another whole category of startups redundant. And then there's GPTs, a tool that lets anybody build a custom AI with no code. That just commoditized a huge amount of complex development work overnight.
So, okay, what does this all actually mean for us, for how we use technology every day? It means that the very idea of an app, as a little icon you tap on, might be on its way out.
Remember that original Sherlock app from Apple? Its big idea was to be one universal interface for everything. It didn't quite work, and instead, we got a chaotic world of millions of different apps. Well, that original idea is back, but this time it's supercharged with AI. We're probably moving away from a world of many apps and into a world of just a few powerful AI assistants.
And that leaves us with this one big, fascinating question to think about. Over the last decade, we traded the wild open web with its millions of websites for the neatly organized convenience of a few dozen apps on our home screen. So, are we about to see the next great consolidation? Are we about to trade all of those apps for the ultimate convenience of just one single AI?